Breaking news tonight on RFL. You're looking live at Madison, Wisconsin, where any minute now, Governor Scott Walker is going to take the podium and announce that he is dropping out of the 2016 presidential race. Since the CNN debate last week, he has plunged in the polls. He is now registering close to zero. We will keep our eyes on the events in Madison and bring you some sound of Governor Walker dropping out of the race just as soon as he does take that podium. Hello and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman in tonight for Richard French. We want to get analysis right off the bat of what this means for the Republican Party, what it means for the 2016 race, and also all of the machinations that led to this moment for Scott Walker. We're joined tonight by Brad Gersman. He's a political consultant and founding partner of Gotham Government Relations. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Republican strategist Bill O'Reilly. And gentlemen, Walker was leading in the polls from April until July. And then all of a sudden he hits the first debate and he just absolutely tanks. For a lot of people thought the first debate wasn't that critical, but Bill, it looks tonight as though it sank Scott Walker.
It's pretty extraordinary what happened. I think Walker is jumping out too early. I think the field is about to get really volatile. I think with Trump beginning to lose support, a lot of people are going to be shifting around. I'm not saying Walker would have won it, but I think he could have been back into it. But it is extraordinary. I mean, here was really an established conservative Republican with serious bona fides, and he's out early. It's the same with Perry.
This is a head scratcher to me. I mean, clearly, and I agree with Bill here. Is this guy still has a chance? I mean, this is somebody who is a true potential presidential candidate, has everything that you would ask for. But for some reason is, bottoming out at near zero. But clearly where the problem is in the fundraising. He has no money, and with no money, you have no chance. And that's where he's at.
He even said as recently, Dominic, as yesterday, that he was going to redouble his efforts in Iowa, focus on that, a neighboring state to Wisconsin, where he was leading in the polls since January. You think it's the money, or you think there's something else at play here?
It's always the money, Andrew. If the money is not right, if you don't have enough to fund a national campaign, which includes getting on the ballot, staying on the ballot, campaign headquarters, Bill obviously could talk to this, campaign workers, then you're in trouble. The fact of the matter is, for Governor Walker, he never seemed to take off at all. Some people just look much better as a candidate than Rick Perry is the perfect example. And the moment they get in, it's like they become a lead balloon, if you will. The governor, he's walking out.
Let's take a listen to Governor Scott Walker, expected to withdraw from the 2016 race.
First off, thank you all for coming. Before I say anything about our campaign, I just want to say on behalf of Tonette, our family, we want to extend our sympathies to the family of Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Patrick Crooks. We will let the Supreme Court make the official announcement like that, but we just want to pass on our prayers and our sympathy to him and his family, certainly his wife and his children, and all of his extended family. And we'll have more to comment on that in the days to come. As a kid, I was drawn to Ronald Reagan because he was a Republican and a conservative. But most of all, I admired him because of his eternal optimism in the American people. That thought came into my head when we were all standing on the stage at the Reagan Library last Wednesday. Ronald Reagan was good for America because he was an optimist. Sadly, the debate taking place in the Republican Party today is not focused on that optimistic view of America. Instead, it has drifted into personal attacks. In the end, I believe that the voters want to be for something and not against someone. Instead of talking about how bad things are, we want to hear how we can make them better for everyone. We need to get back to the basics of our party. We are a party that believes that people create jobs, not the government. And the best way to grow the economy is to get the government out of the way and build it from the ground up. We are a party that believes that the way to measure success in government is by how many people are no longer dependent on the government, because we ultimately believe in the dignity of work. We are the party that believes that a strong military leads to peace through strength, and that will protect our children and future generations, that good will ultimately triumph over evil. We are a party that believes in the American people, not the federal government. These ideas will help us win the election next fall, and more importantly, These ideas will make our country great again. To refocus the debate on these types of issues will require leadership. While I was sitting in church yesterday, the pastor's words reminded me that the Bible is full of stories about people who were called to be leaders in unusual ways. Today, I believe that I'm being called to lead by helping to clear the field in this race so that a positive, conservative message can rise to the top of the field. With this in mind, I will suspend my campaign immediately. I encourage other Republican presidential candidates to consider doing the same so that the voters can focus on a limited number of candidates who can offer a positive, conservative alternative to the current frontrunner. This is fundamentally important to the future of the party and, more importantly, to the future of our country. This is a difficult decision, as so many wonderful people stepped up to support our campaign. Tonette and I are very thankful for the many outstanding volunteers and the excellent staff who helped us throughout the campaign. You all have been like family to us. And speaking of family, I want to personally thank my wife, Tonette, who has been a rock, as well as our two amazing sons, Matt and Alex. I thank my parents and my brother David and his family and all of our other family and friends for their love and support. Most of all, I want to thank God. I want to thank God for his abundant grace. Win or lose, it has always been more than enough. Thank you.
And that is Governor Scott Walker leaving the podium in Madison, Wisconsin, the now former presidential candidate from the Republican Party. And gentlemen, Bill, I'll start with you on this. He really went out of his way to say it's Donald Trump. That's why I'm getting out of this race. He said personal attacks. We need to get back to message. That sounds like Donald Trump to me.
He did. There's no question. I like what he said. I like that he talked about the optimism in the conservative movement that it used to have and that he thinks it should have again. I think it's unfortunate that Walker's the one to step aside. I think there's others that could do it, before him. But he made a statement. He made it clear that he doesn't like the direction of this campaign with Trump in the race. I think he's right. He's 47 years old. He's going to have another act.
And think about the tone that he was speaking in. It was a very somber tone, and of course it was a somber message that he's stepping out of the race. But the other point that he's making is that this whole race in and of itself is a problem, and that it requires leadership to get back on track. And so, it looked like, he was a guy who a lot of people thought could possibly be president, but in the face of what's going on with Trump and, it's just too difficult for him.
Is it the race, is it the environment, or the fact that he's not doing well in the race?
A little bit of all. When you look at the fact, there's a reason why he references Donald Trump. What was Scott Walker's claim to fame? Besides the fact that he stood up to the unions, the fact that he's a conservative, the fact that immigration was supposed to be one of his key issues, coming towards immigration from the right. Well, guess who owns that part of the Republican base? Donald Trump. All the oxygen is completely, Andrew, at the end of the day, out of the room for Scott Walker as long as Trump is in the race. And there's no signs of Trump letting up.
Yeah, but in Scott Walker's defense, the only thing I can add is that, they're not really on the issues. Okay, they're talking about, really loud and vicious attacks, at least Donald Trump is, but they're not really talking about the issues. And here's a guy, and a lot of the other credible, legitimate politicians out there want to talk about the issues. And no one is able to get to him. It doesn't even matter. It means nothing to anybody because the air has been taken out of the room.
I think what's really unfortunate for the Republican field, and whether you like Scott Walker or not, this is a guy who's shown himself to have a titanium backbone. He's been tested, he's been under fire more than any governor in America, and he stayed firm to his convictions, like them or not. He stayed firm. It's a real loss for this field, I think.
Putting aside the superficialities, how he performed in the debates and that sort of thing, are there any lessons for other candidates to learn from the issues that he was advocating?
Yeah, I think a little bit. He seemed to get knocked off stride by Trump early, where he went out there and tried to out-immigration him. He talked about putting up a wall on the Canadian border, which is just, on its face, is ridiculous. He seemed to get rattled and knocked off his core, and you can't do that. You got to wait it out. News cycles come and they go. You got to wait them out sometimes.
But it seems that you've got to be ready for prime time when you're running for president from day one. It just seems like with Scott Walker, it was amateur hour. It seemed like in Cleveland and in California at the debates, it just seemed like he didn't really belong on the same stage.
Well, he got knocked off kilter because of Donald Trump. I mean, he knew. I mean, I think it all comes down to that. Is he wasn't at his best because of that. The other thing is he's 47 years old. The guy has got to live to see another day, and Donald Trump can take you and grind you down to where you can't win another election.
Finally, very quickly around the table, who benefits from Walker being out of the race?
You asked for quickly. I have to think about that. I'm
All right,
not
Bill,
sure.
Who benefits from Walker being out of the race?
I'd say the other, Christie, Bush, Jindal.
Dom?
He was such a non-factor. I don't really see anybody benefiting.
Yeah, his
Brad?
0% will
I mean,
go to others.
it was like he wasn't even in the race.
The
That's
answer,
the math you
the
wanted?
answer, gentlemen, Marco
Nobody.
Rubio. We're going to take a quick break. Up next, yet another showdown over a possible government shutdown. Republicans are squabbling with each other over it. Democratic New York Congressman Eliot Engel will be here to talk about that and a whole lot more next.